Welcome back from the break, and right now it is time to take care of our minds, being in our present state, being in touch with our present self. And that is where we give the floor to Shalini Bala Lucas, who will be taking us through our mindfulness segment.
Welcome to 5-Minute Mindfulness with me, Shalini Bala Lucas. I recently published my third book, Happiness, Is It Simply a Mindset Shift? My husband Jeremy passed away 4 years ago, and I went into the darkest, deepest depression. Grief is a merciless master. It drags you down to the depths of despair, and it just holds you in this vice-like grip, and you think that it's never going to let go. And then grief does begin to let go, very, very slowly. And so I began to move forward with my life. I will never move on from Jeremy. Of that I'm very sure. But I will move forward with my life. As I began to move forward, I realized that I wanted to be happy again. But I'd forgotten how. I just didn't know how to be happy. So I did all sorts of crazy things, like you do. I went online dating and dated lots of guys, and that was a lot of fun. But at the end of that 7 months of crazy dating, I realized that I was looking for happiness in someone else, and I couldn't do that. I had to find happiness from within. And so I began to cultivate happiness. I began to use all the techniques and all the knowledge that I had gained over years as a dance teacher and as a mindfulness and meditation teacher. I began to dance again, look after my body. I began to eat properly. I was exercising. I did mindfulness and meditation every day. I began to practice gratitude. I began to practice and really feel compassion, self-compassion, compassion for friends and family, and for the earth that we live in. All these things began to add up, and I began to feel happiness again. One of the many things that I have done is create a legacy for Jeremy. It's called the Jeremy Lucas Education Fund, and we support 16 children in northern Kenya, in Samburu, through secondary and tertiary education. That gives me happiness. So these are all techniques that I have used and I embody every day in my life. But I wanted to share a technique with you today. It's a very simple technique. It's called happiness jar. And it's more about the fleeting, transient happiness from day to day. Because actually even just cultivating that and feeling grateful for that happiness does build this feeling of positivity in you. And the happiness jar is something that you can do with your family, with the children that are at home with you, especially in this day and age of coronavirus when we're all sort of locked down or in curfew, or some people in self-isolation. So it's very simple. All you do is you keep a happiness jar in a prominent place, like the dining room table, and you keep some post-it notes or cards and a pen. And you ask your family to once a day write down something they're happy about. What has given them happiness today? It could be anything at all. And you write your name, date, and today I am happy because, and then you write down whatever has made you happy. Because I had time for a chat on WhatsApp with my friend, because I had time to watch a movie, because my friend made me happy, or a song made me happy. Just the small things in life. You then fold it and put it in the jar. And at the end of the week, you all shared what made you happy. Try it. I guarantee it will work. I hope you found that useful. Do find ways to cultivate happiness in your life. Because after all, what is life about but to be happy? Please connect with me on social media at Just June. Until then, be happy, be mindful. I'm Shalini Bala Lucas. Thank you for watching.
And now on Business Success, we have Eric Muli. Eric Muli is founder and CEO of Odyssey Capital and Alpha Security, top 30 under 30 of Forbes, and I can't wait to have a conversation. So let's head out and speak to Eric Muli. Good morning and welcome to KPN Life and Style. If you're just joining us, this is Business Success, and with us today we have Eric Muli, who is the founder of Lipa. And the man has so many titles to brag about, but the one we're focusing on is that, which is people, something that I relate to because it's within something I can understand. It's simply explained in a way that I can understand. He not only brags about that, but he's also been listed in the Forbes list for top 30 under 30. And we'll get to that because I cannot imagine how the feeling was. Do you submit your name or do you just show up one day and then guys are like, you know what, Eric, we've seen your name somewhere. But as it is, thank you so much for giving us your time. And let's get into the interview. So who is Eric Muli?
Thanks, Laura, for having me. That's a wonderful introduction. Who is Eric Muli? Eric Muli, I'm a simple guy. I'm an entrepreneur by profession, if that's a real profession, but I'm an entrepreneur. I love building things. I'm 28 years old. Have been building things for most of my life, and that's what I love to do. Yeah, I'm the founder. I'm the founder of and CEO of Lipa. Among other things that I also do, but that's like my major. That's the major highlights of who I am.
So at 28, you're not a simple guy, because if we're all simple guys, we'd all have achieved as much as you have. And what is it about you that stands out? Because for someone to make such big steps, to take such huge risks, what is it about you that pushes you towards taking such risks?
Right. I think that there's a couple of things. So one, I have a very go-getter kind of mindset. I'm very direct with the things that I want to go after, and I work towards them. So I'm very deliberate with some of these things. Sometimes I'm a bit naive about like the risks and that are involved, and or just like how difficult things are. And sometimes, and that has actually worked to my advantage, because I typically would not overthink too many things before I do them. So that's been a very big part of that. Also, one of the things that I would say is that I've also had the opportunity to take some of these risks, because I know certain people maybe don't actually have the opportunity to take risks that may completely collapse their life. But I really had, at a certain point, I really had nothing to lose, to be honest, when we started. So like there's a mix of things. One, it's opportunity. Two, it's I have a mindset of going after what I want and getting it. And I mean, I put the work behind it. So we work very hard, and that's how we get things done.
Before we even get into details, how did you come up with the Lipa later? You saw a need for something. So how did you know you could be the one to fill in that space?
So the way I looked at it, it was very simple. Like it was a need, out of a need myself that I personally had at the time. I forget how old I was, but I was at a point where buying things was expensive. It's like you only have a certain amount of income or amount of money. Purchasing a nice phone or an electronic, a laptop was just expensive. It was something you needed to save for 6 months, 7 months, 12 months. It was a challenge that I personally had. And when I looked around the ecosystem, go to the different stores, I realized that for you to actually you need to get a credit card. For you to get a credit card, it will take you 6 to 9 months to do that. Then you need to have security. It was very complicated. And in different markets around the world, they were just getting buying now and paying later, well, for almost everything. So I realized that it doesn't exist here, and opportunity to pursue. Did I understand like the type of challenges that come with it? Probably not. Actually, not probably. I definitely. I didn't know how difficult that is, but that's how the idea came about, and I decided to pursue it. And I was lucky to have like a partner that wanted to pursue it with me.
And that's amazing. So you mentioned your partner, and I just remembered when we were organizing this meeting, Phyllis, I should appear, please give her my high five because she's very efficient. I'll just say that out loud. But anyway, as we continue, you're 28 years old, and I know a few people who are 28. I'm not saying they're worse off or you're better, but there's so many temptations that come with being so successful at your age. How do you, and what are these challenges, and how do you approach them?
Yeah, that's a very, I've never been asked that question before, but like I think one, it's there's the mindset that we have to have, like at least like I have to have on how I approach things and how I carry up, go about my business on a day-to-day basis. And it's a mindset of responsibility, right? So it's I have responsibilities that are bigger than myself. You know, I have a business that I'm running, that I'm supported. People have supported me. People have put a lot behind us, and I'm responsible to those people. I'm responsible to my team members. I'm responsible to help them put food on their tables, and it's a lot bigger than just myself. So the way I look at it when I wake up is what allows me to like remain focused. Of course, I love what I do, but I don't think the way my mind is set up and the responsibilities I have will allow me to get distracted. So it's kind of something that I've gotten accustomed to in the beginning. Maybe I was not as as probably maybe a bit easier distracted, but as things went by, you start realizing that this is no longer just about yourself. There are a lot of people that are dependent on what we get up to do in the morning. So it's been a growing experience, and that's not to say that we don't have distractions, but it's about zoning down on like what actually matters um, to me at this point in my life.
Then my next question would be, when you think like even when you were starting out and you had a partner, how do you go selecting the people you surround yourself? Is it you have to have this mentality, this is the kind of people I hang out around, or you are confident in who you are, so your surrounding doesn't matter? And does this count when someone is desperately, you want to be very successful? Is this a contributing factor, the people you surround yourself?
I definitely think so. Like, I mean, I think some of those things also do happen organically and naturally. It's like all friendships, you know. It doesn't. We're not necessarily going to go out there, looking for people that match a certain description, but some of those things do happen naturally and organically, and we have to surround ourselves by people who motivate us and push us forward and not drag us backwards, right? That's definitely what I spend call it 10 to 12 hours at work every single day, but there's still another 12, right, that are not in the office. So it's important to surround myself with what activities that we're doing, but I don't necessarily go out there picking and choosing based on a checkbox. It's some of these things happen organic, naturally. And like for me, when I started Lipa later, my partner Michael, he's been my long-term friend, or like family almost. Similar mindset, similar upbringing, a similar way of looking at life. So I was very fortunate to have him, and he was a trained lawyer that just dropped everything he was doing to start like working on a business that didn't exist. So there's also that kind of belief we have to have in each other as friends and partners. So I think like, yeah, the way we like, I do believe it's critical. I just don't believe it's something that we would, I would go out there and with a checkbox.
So I like you just mentioned something that I really wanted to ask. You've mentioned that he dropped everything. He was just a lawyer, so he came and like we are doing this and we're doing it big. Now, how did the Lipa later come up? Did you get investors? Did you manage to save up after a while? How did the whole thing come into reality?
It was very crazy. It's even, sometimes I think back at like how we started. I don't even know what happened, how we managed to do it. But we didn't have money. So I think like he had a job at the time, so he had more money than me. So he put in like, I think he put in like 200,000 shillings. I managed to save up 100,000. And I think that's what we used to start. And then we just started like, we onboarded another co-founder of ours right after that. Her name is Claudine. And essentially what we did was we just went store to store, like asking store owners, oh, would you want to sell things in installments and so on?
Wow.
And a lot of them said no. This was just like, we're just literally going. I remember we'd spend like our Thursdays and Fridays just in CBD, going store to store. And then we got lucky to meet a few people that actually said yes to what we had, but we didn't have any money. We thought we had enough money. We thought 300,000 was enough to finance the entire world. But that's how we started, right? So we got somebody who just was like, yeah, fine, no problem. And then luckily, soon after that, like we managed to, we realized obviously we needed like money because now we needed to pay for things, right? And I went around like just talking to every single person I knew, asking for any kind of money they could give me. And I'm talking like anything. We were taking 10,000 shillings, 30,000,
Yeah.
40, 50. That's how we started. And it was surprisingly like comforting to know like how even your friends who don't have money will support you when you ask. Right. So like,
Yeah.
I had like a couple of friends who themselves didn't have much money, but they're like, okay, here's 30,000, get started, like work, then you get that from 40 people, it adds up. And then we got lucky, like we got our first like person that said yes and wrote us like a nice check at the time, that got us
Mm-hmm.
started. After that, it's just been working hard. We've been working very, very hard um,
Mm-hmm.
to like, figure out how best we can be capital efficient. And then everything else began to, work out from then. We fundraised a lot thereafter, but that initial just like getting things started was very, very difficult. We had to like work very hard to
Yeah.
do that.
When you started, I wanted to compare. I used to do promotional jobs. It's like when you're approaching someone with a product and you're trying to convince them, but in the back of the mind, they're 100% sure they're not going to buy into this. So I
Yeah,
can't imagine you in the CBD, talking to people in their shops, and the way they come in crowds. Unasema nini? That they show up and they're all like, no, we're not buying into it. I cannot even imagine how
yeah.
stressful that was. But look at you, we are here and we're having a conversation.
Well, so you understand how it feels to be told no.
Yeah, and they're giving you the ears, they're listening, they seem very interested, and then when you're doing your final, selling point, they're like, oh, you know what, I'm not buying into it. But it's normal, and it's good to know that even in higher levels of business, it's the people are just the same. They don't change. We're talking to Eric Muli, the success story. At the end of the day, the things that when you wake up in the morning, these are standard for you. So what is your day like? What is your typical day for a successful man like Eric Muli at the age of 28 on a Monday through Friday?
That's interesting. So my days, I don't know if they're boring, but I'll just kind of tell you what it looks like. I typically would wake up around 6. I head to the gym right after. So I do that early in the morning. Come back home. I typically have my first hour, and my first hour of work is actually at home, where I would read. Reading different books. I don't read fiction. I just read like like self-help boring books. The boring stuff. That's what I read. So I read that. Then I typically commute. Then I go to work. So my first meeting is at 8:45 every single day. So and then I typically would spend like I have a daily meeting with different managers, so different people that would report to me every day, Monday through Friday. So my mornings are packed with those meetings. And then thereafter now I kind of, depends on the day, depends on what we're working on. But my day would typically last anywhere, like because of curfew now. So I would typically work until like 8:30 p.m., between 8:30 p.m. and 9 p.m. At least these days. Before it used to go longer. I know it's not that healthy, but that's typically what we kind of we have to do. That's a typical day.
Yeah.
That's a typical Monday. My day would start at 6, end around 9:30, around that time. In between that, it's my, like as you know, Phyllis will manage my calendar very, 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 very well, right? Yeah, that's a typical day of mine.
Yeah. And throughout all this, the one thing I've realized is success is just not fun. Like, who wants to spend their days from 6 to 9 just focusing on things other than themselves? But we're here, we're talking to you, there's a reason. But now, what is the next step for you? Because I'm sure even with the level of success you've achieved, from outward looking in, to us, it's like, wow, look at Eric Muli with all this success. But to you, you're like, you know what, this is the first step. What is the next step for Eric Muli?
If I'm speaking personally, like I'm still like growing as a person, as a leader. Like I want like my leadership styles to keep growing, to keep improving, to keep growing, and that's like something that I really commit to, and I work very hard on a daily basis to improve on, because I know like leadership is a journey. So like I want to be a better leader, and that will take time. So I keep working on that. Like so that's one. Second, like I want to achieve my goal. At least my business goals. My business goals is I'm building a Pan-African business. We're building something that is going to be across the continent. And our goal is to impact as many lives as possible. And I want to do that best way that I possibly can. I don't think we're there yet. We have a long way to go. for that. So I want to work tirelessly for to do that. And then thereafter, like I want to, be a lot more deliberate about how I can be more impactful to the community, my community that raised me. So I would like to figure that out. I don't have a plan fully yet. I think I have some time, yeah, that's what's next for me. So I want to do a lot of self development, hit my company goals, and then thereafter, like I want to see what more what I can do with my brain to help the community.
All I'm imagining is if you've managed to achieve all this before 30, what more can we expect from you? But maybe out of the box, because I think you've answered my later question. You're working towards a Pan-African business, right? What is the one challenge as an entrepreneur you face that you feel is just so unnecessary and there's a way people can do without? What is the one challenge you ever face as an entrepreneur? Looking back, you're like, by the way, I could find necessary,
That's such a good question. I wish I had like just the answer on top of my head, but I have so many things that there's so many times in life I think about that. One, okay, I would say let me answer it by saying the type of challenges, some of the challenges that I've been through, that are interesting, and I hope people don't have to go through. Right. Mm-hmm. So I think one obvious one, not obvious, but one that people don't really expect is how important like building a team is. Right. Mm-hmm. So that's like one challenge that we've had. We have a great team now, but we've made some mistakes in the past with team members that like don't mean well for the company, not committed to working hard, and just drowns the things that you're working on, right? So like I think that's one thing, that like that's one challenge that I hope like all entrepreneurs and all people like building companies and building teams like can work, not even work, but like really think about the type of people they bring onto their team to help them achieve their goal. The toughest thing, like to be honest, which I know is probably what everybody says, like it's getting started in the beginning. Like one, because there's the initial fundraising bit, and like it's a very obvious fact, like in Kenya, that a lot of local Kenyan entrepreneurs are not being supported, right? Like with investors, by getting investments, it's very difficult. So people like tend to give up at that point. Right? We lose a lot of like quality ideas, quality people at that point, because like it's just extremely difficult to get backing, and there's only so much that people can push. And I really think that is like a challenge that if that is solved, like with the whole ecosystem, the whole country would benefit significantly, right? Like I remember at one point telling my mom that I'm a professional beggar. I was just a professional beggar running around just begging.
To be honest, Eric, I'm rethinking this interview because I came here to be inspired, and all I'm thinking is entrepreneurship is so hard. I have no interest. Like, I can't. It's for the strong-willed like you, and I'm so grateful for you giving us your time this morning. I hope when everything is sorted, we can have a one-on-one interview in studio. I have a lot of questions.
Yeah, hopefully. I'm looking forward to that.
All right. Thank you so much, Eric. Let me leave you to your very strenuous day, and I can go back to talking to my camera, but thank you so much for giving me your time.
Have a wonderful day on the camera.
Yeah, you too. Have a good day.
All right. See you.